Coming up, we'll talk with Roger Hoover, the Crimson Tide Sports Network, as Alabama gets ready to begin the season. We'll talk a little Jack State football, high school football. Polls are out. We'll look at those and more on Southern Sports Now. Welcome in on this Wednesday, August the 30th, 2023. I'm Chase Robinson, your host here on Southern Sports Now, and glad you are joining me here on this Wednesday, middle of the week. We've talked a lot about what happened this weekend. We're going to talk a lot about what is coming up this week here on the show today, as we'll talk Alabama as they get ready for Middle Tennessee, Auburn getting ready for UMass to begin the 2023 seasons for college football. Jacksonville State, of course, had the Week 0 game this past week. They've got East Tennessee State this Saturday for a Week 1 matchup there at Jacksonville State. High school football Week 1, great matchups on the way. You get a lot of these kind of rivalry games in Week 1. So we'll look at those games coming up. And the Alabama Sports Writers Association releases polls each Wednesday. So we get our first poll for the regular season today, which is exciting. So we'll run through from 7A all the way down to 1A of where our teams sit. So certainly excited about that to kind of look at that. And we've got several local teams that are in the mix there in the Alabama Sports Writers Association poll. So we'll look at those later on in the show. But a lot to dive into as far as football goes because, folks, it is here, and we are so excited to have you covered all football season long. And we want to remind you to check out the East Alabama Now YouTube channel, the East Alabama Now Facebook page. Go ahead and subscribe, like those, and go ahead and spread the word about what we have going on here at East Alabama Now and Southern Sports Now as we bring you the best content each and every day as far as high school and college football. I want to remind you about the mailbag coming up Friday. Go ahead and get your sports questions in because we will answer those coming up on Friday. You can do that by sending us an email, sending us a message on Facebook, or a message on Twitter, and we will get those questions in our mailbag and answer those coming up on Friday as we do each and every week. We'll jump to a break right now. We're going to talk Alabama Crimson Tide next. Roger Hoover, the Crimson Tide Sports Network, will join us here on Southern Sports Now.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
East Alabama Now Local News has been bringing you the best local news coverage for 6 months. And now we're growing.
EAN News will be available to you 5 nights a week with new faces, new content, and coverage that is second to none.
We'll be bringing you the weather that matters to your neighborhood and to you. Rain or shine, you'll be in the know.
Sports always brings communities together, and EAN Sports will have coverage of all of our area events.
East Alabama Now, local news, new faces, same great coverage. Starting 5 days a week, May 1st. EAN Local News, your news on your schedule.
We're back here on Southern Sports Now on this Wednesday, middle of the week. We've spent a lot of time kind of rehashing this past weekend in high school and college football. Now we're going to look ahead as the Alabama Crimson Tide will begin the 2023 season coming up Saturday, Bryant-Denny Stadium, as Middle Tennessee. The Blue Raiders coming into Tuscaloosa. We're going to talk some Alabama football now as we welcome on Roger Hoover, the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Roger, how are you today?
Doing really well, Chase. Thank you for having me on. I'm just so excited that finally we get to talk about football season and a game week. I think we all kind of like our summer programming. You know, we had a great conversation at SEC Media Days in Nashville, but this is really what it's all about. Enough talk about practice. Let's play some football.
Absolutely. And I know for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, announcements have been coming out the last couple of weeks, and I know y'all are glad to have Eli Gold back in the booth for the home games. Chris Stewart will handle away games. Tyler Watts in the booth now, so a lot of excitement there for the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Yeah, it's great to be finally back at kind of full strength for us after, in 2019, Chris missed the entire football season. Eli, of course, missed all of last football season. So glad both of those guys are healthy and doing well. And then we're going to miss John Parker Wilson, who for the past 5 years was just so great to work with as our color analyst. I really enjoyed even some of the social media interviews he and I did. We wish him all the best getting to enjoy Bryant-Denny Stadium with his family coming up. That's certainly going to be good for them. But Tyler Watts is somebody I've known for a long time. Obviously, I was a fan of his when he was a player and quarterback for the Crimson Tide. And then I got to work with him on the post-game radio call-in show. And, he was the one that basically took all the questions. So if the fans were ever upset about how the game went, they didn't really ask me anything. They asked Tyler a lot of things. And he had a great way of kind of calming everybody down, win or loss, because honestly, we haven't done many shows where we've lost a game. We did a lot of shows where Alabama won, but maybe not by enough to some people. So he was really great in those situations. And he's a natural as the color analyst. He did so many of the pay-per-view games in the early 2000s and the CSS playbacks with Chris Stewart and David Crane. So he's really the perfect person to be in this role. I think fans are going to love hearing him.
Well, the Crimson Tide, of course, hitting the field Saturday, got Middle Tennessee to open up. And when you look at this team, I know we've talked some through the summer and after spring and everything, but when you look at this team, obviously at the start of every year there's question marks, but obviously again there's question marks this year. What are some things, and I know the quarterback situation is the thing everybody's talking about, but besides the quarterback, what are some things, maybe some questions you're looking to see answered for this team coming up in the opener Saturday?
Well, I want to see if the defense is going to play with that kind of intensity that I honestly saw from them during the two scrimmages. We did some mock broadcasts to kind of get Eli back to speed, Tyler and Christian kind of back in the fold as well. So I got to go to both scrimmages, sit along with those guys, and I was just really impressed by the defense. So starting up front with all the strength they have there with whether it's Justin Boygby, Tim Keenan, Tim Smith, Jamarian Latham, Jaheim Otis is kind of impossible to block. That's a really good starting point for this football team is their good defensive line. The edge rushers, we already know what Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell can do. Deontay Lawson's taken over as a signal caller, looks to be in really good shape. And then the secondary is just extremely strong. To have Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold back after they spent all of last season as starting cornerbacks, that's pretty rare in the SEC. They look great. Caleb Downs has really stepped up in a big way. A freshman who we have to see it in games, but in practice so far, he has been lights out. And you can see why some people are comparing him to a Minkah Fitzpatrick, who also stepped in as a true freshman, made an impact, was a starter right away. I think it's pretty exciting what he can do. There's just so much experience on this defense, and I want to make sure that they continue playing to the standard we kind of got to see a little bit in fall camp. If they can do that in the regular season, fans are going to fall in love with this defense. It's going to remind people of the strong defense and kind of a defensive-led team that the Crimson Tide had 12 years ago back in 2011, that team that won the national championship by beating LSU and basically not allowing LSU to get past the 50-yard line at the Superdome. It's that kind of defense, it feels like, again. And you have an old-school Nick Saban coordinator and Kevin Steele. He's back. He's brought some toughness. He's made this defense relatable to all these players. I'm just really impressed by that that group more than anything. And I think that's probably what we're not talking about enough. Yes, the conversation will go to the offense and who's going to be the quarterback, who's going to play consistently at quarterback, can the wide receivers step up? I think it's the defense that has made it tough to figure out that offensive consistency because the defense has been so good. So it's really tough on Alabama's wide receivers in practice each and every day, having to go up against maybe the best defense they'll play the entire year is what they've been seeing every day in Tuscaloosa. So I think we're going to learn a lot coming up this first game against a pretty good Middle Tennessee team that has won 2 bowl games in a row, beat Miami at Miami last year. They're certainly not intimidated by what's coming up with the Crimson Tide on Saturday.
You know, talking about the defense, and I know there's a lot of experience and a new coordinator. What do you think it is that's made this defense the way it is this year? Is it that experience? Is it Kevin Steele coming in? Is it a mix? Like, what do you think has gone into making this defense what it is?
I think it's the experience and the fact that, especially when I talked about those defensive linemen, I mean, all those guys have been in the mix for really the last 2 years. That's really good experience to be bringing back for this group. So they understand football. They understand SEC football. And I mentioned the experience with Dallas, with Chris, as some of the linebackers, the outstanding cornerbacks that we are fortunate to have, and Kool-Aid and Terry and Arnold. It's just rare to bring back this much talent. And the other thing, I just don't see a weak point of this defense. I don't think it's going to be a case where, the secondary gets, let's be honest, a little picked apart at times, like we saw in some critical moments, most notably against Tennessee last year and some against LSU as well. I don't really see that happening with this group. I think their play is much more consistent. The talent level has been upgraded, and it's exciting to see what this group can do.
Well, I do want to talk offense with you, and I know, again, like we said, a lot of talks on that quarterback. Nick Saban has not released who the starter will be Saturday, and I'm sure he won't until they come on the field for the game Saturday. But what do you think is going into this decision for Nick Saban? Do you think that the reason he hasn't said any names yet is because they all could be the starter technically?
Well, I think he wants all of them to compete as if they're going to be the starter coming up on Saturday. I think he wants, the same reason he didn't release a depth chart earlier in the week. He doesn't want any expectations to be made and then affecting the work the rest of the week. That's why I think even going into pregame warmups, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the rotation looks like there, see some different quarterback center combinations. This competition, again, is going to go through not only once we get through warmups, into the ball game. We could see multiple quarterbacks during the ball game, and I think it's really not going to be determined who that quarterback is going to be for this group moving forward until we see some consistent play on the field, and maybe it doesn't even get revealed until deep into the Texas game, and you see whoever is on the field in the fourth quarter, that might be the guy moving forward. But we've got a pretty long and winding road until then, not just with the game on Saturday against Middle Tennessee, but how do these quarterbacks respond after they play a game? Do they have a good week of practice leading into a Texas game where the Longhorns defense certainly has improved from what we saw a year ago down in Austin? So again, the competition is not stopping. Tyler Buckner was brought in to add to the competition along with what Jalen and Ty Simpson, and then the freshmen have done pretty well from what we've heard. Eli Holstein, Dylan Lonergan. So I think you can safely say about this quarterback group, they all got better throughout the course of fall camp. The conversations we're having about this group now are different than what we had maybe in July or even going back to the spring with the A-Day game. Everybody took a step forward. Now we just have to see that consistency in-game more than anything and experience for these guys.
As far as the offensive line goes, very important piece, especially for whoever is the quarterback for Alabama. The offensive line has struggled in years past. What can fans expect from this 2023 O-line?
Well, I mentioned the defense is kind of a throwback defense. I think this is kind of a throwback offensive line for Alabama, kind of going back to the group that we were fortunate to have in 2020 that won the Joe Moore Award for the outstanding offensive line in the country. It starts with a good left tackle, and Caden Proctor looks to be the guy there. He certainly has the size, has the toughness you want to have at that spot. And then the rest of the line, they're just some solid playmakers, whether it's Tyler Booker, J.C. Latham, is somebody who's been very vocal about having Alabama play to that standard once again. Seth McLaughlin wearing the run the damn ball cap when we had him on Hey Coach last spring, and he talks about that mentality and that he always wants to play that kind of physical brand of football. He kind of reminds you a lot of Landon Dickerson from that 2020 team with the way he's able to lead that group as the center. So the talent's there. They've had another year to be with Eric Wolford, who is the offensive line coach. And it was funny, earlier this week, we interviewed Seth for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, our social media show. And he said, I asked him about getting to play with Coach Wolford for a second straight year. And he's like, well, now he knows when to smile more and when to laugh and is more relatable at times. Probably the first year transition for an assistant coach onto Nick Saban's staff is probably pretty tough. We probably don't give that enough credit. So now it seems like Coach Wolford's much more comfortable with these guys, and we know they're going to be well fed. I don't know if you saw it yesterday. There's an NIL deal that the offensive line is going to have with a Rolled Tide jerky that they are really excited about, and I expect that protein to fuel them on game day.
For sure there. And another thing that, it has kind of been a concern the last few years, but especially last year's penalties. What would you say that has been kind of the focus for Nick Saban, the coaching staff, for the players to eliminate some of these penalties that we've been seeing, kind of uncharacteristic penalties for the Tide?
Yeah, those Texas and Tennessee games were tough. The Texas game, they tied the record for most penalties, and then the Tennessee game set the school record for penalties, which not even a Saban-era record, but a school record. Even Coach Bryant's and Coach Thomas's teams didn't have those. So that was difficult, and I think that was probably something that was kind of difficult to correct all throughout the season last year with all the practice. So we heard from Crimson Tide players over the summer that it really was a point of emphasis in spring practice. And we know it was the case in preseason camp as well. The referees are at every practice regardless, but they were probably honestly throwing more flags during spring and in fall camp based on what we've heard to really make sure this team realizes that, excuse me, more than anything, you can't have pre-snap penalties. That's something we've talked about the offensive linemen with, is they're really trying to make sure they clean that up and make sure they're on the same page. And, you look to the Tennessee game, so many good moments were taken away by penalties. The Texas game nearly was on the brink of disaster, mainly because of all the penalties. Alabama was doing a lot of good things, except for some of those excessive penalties, Will Anderson being offsides a few times. Again, it's time to clean those things up, and it does seem like that's been a point of emphasis this spring and summer for this team.
Well, Alabama hits the field on Saturday against Middle Tennessee to start the 2023 football season. Roger Hoover there, the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Roger, really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll be talking to you, I'm sure, throughout the season, but appreciate you coming on and previewing the Tide with us today.
Anytime, Chase. Thank you for having me on. Roll Tide.
As Roger Hoover, the Crimson Tide Sports Network. We'll jump to a break. More Southern Sports Now coming your way in a moment.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
EAN Sports is proud to bring you the best, most informative local sports content, and we want your help to be able to do that. If you have a story idea, a tip for our sportscast, or even a highlight clip you want to see on EAN Local Sports, send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @EAN_sports, or you can send it to the EAN News Facebook page. EAN Sports, bringing you the local sports happening in your community.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
If you see some interesting weather phenomenon in your backyard here in East Alabama, send that to us. We would love to hear from you. Send that to us at the email address you see on your screen or through Facebook at EAN News.
Back here on Southern Sports Now. We'll continue talking college football. Talk Jacksonville State now. As of course, we've talked a lot about the historic win Saturday over UTEP there at Burgess Snow Field. And a big part of that, and really a big part of the offense this year, and we know Rich Rod loves running backs. He loves to utilize quite a few running backs. But one of those on the roster and really one of the leaders at running back this year is Jacksonville native Ron Wiggins. You remember him playing at Jacksonville High School, helped the team get to the 2019 state championship. They lost in that game, but Ron Wiggins had a fantastic senior year and then was able to go on and play in college. And now he's really making a name for himself playing for Jacksonville State. What's cool about Ron Wiggins, of course, he grew up going to Jacksonville State games. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the hometown guy scored the first touchdown in the game Saturday. Now, okay, it's the first touchdown of the season, but it also was the first FBS touchdown Jacksonville State has ever scored.
That was a surreal moment, you know. First FBS touchdown in program history. I mean, just hopefully in the future it'll be many more, you know.
One thing you'll see this year from Ron Wiggins is not only is he going to take the handoff and run, he's going to make some catches in the backfield. We saw that on Saturday. He had I believe it was like a 17-yard catch and run for Ron Wiggins. And part of that goes to his improvement in the offseason, and part of it is the trust that the coaching staff has in Ron Wiggins that he's going to make those plays. Ron talked about that as well as Coach Rich Rod on Tuesday.
Definitely think I improved as a pass catcher, you know. In high school, a lot I really didn't catch the ball out the backfield, so most definitely improved as a pass catcher. Being a running back, you don't want to just be a running back, you know. You want to have skills outside of being a running back. You know, you can line up and slide, catch the ball out the backfield. So that's most definitely a skill you want to have.
Ronnie's more familiar with our offense, so there's less hesitation on all of our plays. I run our pass plays with him. And two, there's a trust factor. You know, he's got good ball skills. He's a really good athlete. And so we trust. I mean, I think every back we have, there's not one back like you say, well, I don't know if I want to throw it to him, you know. But there's not one what we have that we don't think has really good ball skills. And so that to me is a bonus. And we're going to use those guys in a lot of different ways like that.
We mentioned he's a hometown guy. He's from Jacksonville. He grew up going to the games. You know, he watched Jacksonville State as an FCS team. He played for Jacksonville State as an FCS team. And every player wants to eventually play at the highest level. You want an opportunity to do that. Ron Wiggins is getting to do that now as Jacksonville State moves into FBS. He now is playing at the highest level of college football. And he talks about just growing up there and seeing Jacksonville State grow and the opportunity he has to play for them.
Being from here, you know, coming to the games when I was younger, you know, and just seeing them playing at the FCS level. And now, years later, we're now at FBS, you know, national televised games, you know, more exposure. So it's a big thing, you know, and I'm happy for where this program is going.
Really good stuff there from Ron Wiggins, former Jacksonville Golden Eagle, now Jacksonville State Gamecock. He's able to stay right here in this area and play football, and I know he has a huge cheering section every game there at Burgess Snow Field, being a local guy. But he's a name to watch out for when it comes to Jacksonville State football this year, and looking for him to do big things again this week against East Tennessee State. But so proud of Ron Wiggins representing this area so well, not only in high school but also in college, and he is a really fun running back to watch. Looking forward to seeing what the season holds there for Ron Wiggins. So good stuff there for Jacksonville State. Again, their game against East Tennessee State is coming up this Saturday, 1 o'clock, and that'll be an ESPN Plus game, so you can watch it there on Plus. We'll jump to a break here. Coming up, we'll roll into our final segment. We're going to look at all of the Alabama Sports Writers Association top 10 polls for this week. We'll do that on the other side.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brodney Sneed from both CARES and Direct Primary Care. Direct Primary Care is an exciting new model of medical care growing on both the East and West Coast. It's been recommended by Forbes and the American Academy of Family Physicians and others for individuals or small businesses with or without health insurance. The pure simplicity of a membership model streamlines the burden of medical care. It eliminates 60% of the overhead. That streamlining allows providers time to focus on patients with free, no copay, no deductible, unhurried office visits or telehealth visits with minimal waiting room time. It produces same or next day appointments and access by text or telephone during and after hours. It saves you from leaving work, wasting time and getting exposed in a waiting room. And the convenience and cost with barriers removed helps one avoid letting problems like a sore throat turn into an expensive ER or hospital visit for pneumonia. If you're interested, search the web for CARES Direct Primary Care.
We're back here on Southern Sports Now, here on a Wednesday, middle of the week, and this is typically the day that the Alabama Sports Writers Association releases their top 10 polls for each classification. They did that this morning, so we're going to take a look as it is the first regular season polls. We took a look a couple of weeks ago at the preseason polls. Today we're going to look at the first regular season poll. We're going to look at 7A through 1A, and we'll really spotlight the local teams here from East Alabama, but we will start with Class 7A. There you see it. No surprise, the Thompson Warriors sit atop Class 7A. They had 19 of the first place votes. Auburn picked up one of those votes. Central Phoenix City 3, Vestavia Hills 4, Enterprise 5, Hoover 6, Dothan 7, Hewitt Trussville 8, Mary Montgomery 9, and Foley number 10. And if you missed it this weekend, Auburn beat Hoover pretty handily, and that is what helped Auburn get to that number 2 spot and bumped Hoover down to 6. But that was a really good high school football game, but no surprise there. Thompson and Auburn getting all the first place votes. Of course, Thompson sitting there atop 7A. In Class 6A, there you see Saraland got 19 of the first place votes. Clay Chalkville picked up one of those. They are second. Hillcrest Tuscaloosa third. Parker 4. Muscle Shoals 5. Hartselle 6. Mountain Brook 7. Theodore 8. Pelham 9. And Benjamin Russell number 10 in Class 6A. But Saraland getting 19 votes. Clay Chalkville with one of those. Of course, Clay Chalkville is a region game for the Oxford Yellow Jackets, so they'll meet up later on this season. But a lot of really good talent on that Clay Chalkville team. Wouldn't surprise me if they snuck up there to number 1 eventually this season there in Class 6A. Looking now at Class 5A, Ramsey atop 5A. They got 19 first place votes, 19 of the 20. Charles Henderson has 1. Pleasant Grove comes in at 3. Faith Academy there in Mobile 4. Moody 5. UMS Wright 6. Beauregard 7. Gulf Shores 8. Demopolis 9. And Leeds 10. So Leeds and Moody are the closest teams to us. Of course, they are actually in the same region as well. Moody got the win over Pell City, and Leeds actually has Pell City coming up this week. But that was a close one there between Moody and Pell City there at Moody this past Friday night. But Moody sits there at number 5. They're a really good football team, and wouldn't surprise me if they moved up some as well. Looking at Class 4A, we got a couple of local teams in this one. Andalusia is atop the Class 4A poll with 17 first-place votes. But there you see the Cherokee County Warriors. They got 2 first-place votes. They sit there second. They got a big win over Alexandria this past Friday night. Catholic Montgomery comes in at 3. Jackson 4. They actually ended up with a first-place vote. Aniana 5. Jacksonville 6. Anniston 7, Handley 8, T.R. Miller 9, and West Morgan 10. But if you notice there, Jacksonville 6, Anniston 7, Handley 8. Keep in mind, those are all three teams in the same region, so they'll be playing each other this season. But right now, they're 6, 7, and 8 in the top 10 poll there with Cherokee County number 2. So lots of East Alabama representation there in Class 4A, but that shows how fun this region is going to be. Jacksonville got the win over Boaz. Anniston got the win over Welborn this past week, and so that's setting up for some really good football to see there in that Class 4A region this year. But always fun to keep up with this 4A in high school football in the state of Alabama. Looking at Class 3A, St. James sits on top with 17 first-place votes. Gordo had a vote, and Piedmont had a vote. Piedmont is yet to play a game this season, but they sit number 3 in the poll. Mars Hill Bible picked up a vote as well. They're at number 4. Mobile Christian 5, followed by Madison Academy at 6, Houston Academy 7, Sylvania 8, Pike County 9, and Geraldine 10. And again, keep in mind, Piedmont, Sylvania, and Geraldine are all in the same region as well, and all in the top 10. And Sylvania actually plays Sacs coming up this week. So the number 8 team of the state will play at the Sacs Wildcats this week. And moving into Class 2A now. There we go. 5. No surprise, the 5 Red Devils sit on top unanimously, all 20 first-place votes for the Red Devils. BB Comer 2, Pisgah 3, Highland Home 4, Tuscaloosa Academy 5, Reeltown 6, Vincent 7, Goshen 8, Ayrton 9, and Aliceville 10 there in Class 2A. But if you notice, 5 unanimously number 1, but they have yet to play a game. They had a Jamboree game this past Friday night. They will have their regular season opener this week, but that shows you what people think about 5. Unanimous number 1, and they hadn't played a game yet there in Class 2A. And looking at 1A, Leroy sits at the top. They had 15 first-place votes. Elba had a vote. Pickens County with a couple of votes. Meek also with a vote, and Sweetwater with a vote. They're all 5 of the top 5 teams with votes. Spring Garden, though, sits there at number 6. Lynn 7, Brantley 8, Milry 9, and Florala is number 10. But watch out for that Spring Garden Coosa Christian game. Coosa Christian's just outside the top 10. Wouldn't surprise me if they beat Spring Garden this week. They will definitely break into the top 10. And if Spring Garden was to get the win over Coosa Christian, I could see them bumping up a little bit. But this is it's going to be fun to watch where Spring Garden ends up. I think they're a very good high school football team as well as Coosa Christian. So those are a couple of teams to keep an eye on coming up this football season. So there you go. There's the Alabama Sports Writers Association top 10s for classes 7 through 1A. And we'll do this every Wednesday. We'll take a look at the polls. That's going to do it for us today. Appreciate our guest, Roger Hoover, earlier in the show. Appreciate you for joining us. Again, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the East Alabama Now YouTube channel. Like the East Alabama Now Facebook page. Spread the word about Southern Sports Now. We do this every single day, talking high school and college football. So be sure to join us as we get you ready for the weekend coming up tomorrow and Friday. Oxford head coach Sam Adams will join us coming up tomorrow and much more. So tune in. Hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.